Today is the last Sunday of May, so it's time for a garden tour. I'm gonna hop right into it. The garden has changed a lot over the last month, so I'm super excited to show you guys, like I am every garden tour that I do, to show you guys the developments over the last month. Let's take a tour. Okay, first things first, we're gonna start out with our full 180 view of the garden. Looking at how the full garden has changed over the last month. We have started using sprinklers again. We're still doing a lot of hand watering, but we really wanted to work on the grass. So we started using sprinklers again, and compared to last month, you can see that the grass has started to green up really nicely. And things are just looking fuller and greener. Let's take a closer look. We're going to start right over here under the arch trellises. Okay, you guys are going to have to pardon the air conditioner in the background. I'm not going to turn it off for the sake of my family that's inside. Okay, so in this first square raised bed at the arch trellis, we have a ton of blue curly kale. Oh my goodness. Just keeping it real, a large carpenter bee just flew directly at me. And normally the carpenter bees don't bother me, but it hit me in the ear. I think it's because maybe I'm looking especially lovely today in this sunflower dress. So it was just looking for a snack. Let's look back at this raised bed. Okay, so we have blue curly kale and sedum. And then along this edge here, this is a sun gold tomato, and this is a Berry's crazy cherry. All of this kale is going to get harvested probably by Thursday of this week, stored in our farm fridge, and then we're going to take it to the market on Saturday. Right over here, the mint, you can see, still growing prolifically. We have another sun gold tomato there, and then some red oak leaf lettuce that is starting to go to seed. I'm actually just gonna let it go to seed, and then I think I might collect seed from it this year, because this has been a really heat tolerant lettuce, and this is the second year that it's grown, so I think it'll be well acclimated to growing here in our yard. And then of course all this peppermint, which you can see I harvested this patch, and it's starting to grow back, but it is significantly shorter than the rest. And then of course lots of weeds. Here's my potted hydrangea. It's really taken off over the last month. The variety, I believe, is called Endless Summer. I took a cutting from here, which I need to go check soon, and I'm going to try to propagate it. I did put some soil acidifier here in the pot to try to get the blooms to be super blue. They're looking kind of like pinkish now, so the soil may not be acidic enough. So I'm going to try to add a little bit more within the next week or so and see if that can really turn them like super blue. I do believe typically hydrangeas are more white, and then the more the acidic the soil, then they move to like pink and then to blue. So I was nervous I was adding too much, but I think since they're just kind of pinkish now, I'm okay to add a little bit more. Here we go on this side. I put some radish here as kind of like a cover crop because I have radish planted somewhere else, hoping it was still cool enough for them to have like just a nice little bite to them, but they're actually like super spicy already. And these are French breakfast, which are some of the lesser spicy radishes, and the ones I harvested the other day had some kick to them, so I might try to sell them and just mark them as very spicy radishes, and people might be interested in those. But I just heavily seeded them in rows. I don't plan on thinning them just because radishes don't do well here in my yard when they're thinned because of the pest pressure, and then also because of the drier conditions. They do well grown in clumps like this because they help shade the soil, keep themselves cool, and then their roots help to maintain moisture in the area that they're planted. So I do plant them very tightly, and I don't thin them. I planted the radishes on top of gladiolas. You can see the gladiolas are starting to come through. Because the radishes are about a 20 some odd day crop, I should be able to crop them out before the gladiolas start to take over. So the gladiolas are going to take at least 2 months before they're ready to harvest. We have a sun gold tomato here, a sun gold tomato here, and then some cucumbers. I believe they're fresh eating Bush Champion cucumbers that I got from one of the big box stores. And I planted them under here because I have the shade cloth here, and cucumbers have a hard time in my yard unless they're predominantly under shade. And then here on the other side, so over here is the lemon balm that's starting to flower, and it is way past ready. I usually will harvest it a couple times before it goes to flower, but I did read somewhere that the optimal time to harvest it is when it just starts to flower. So I'm gonna give it a go and just cut it back super hard because there's actually a sedum here that it's starting to choke out a little bit actually. There's strawberries here, and then there's a sun gold tomato here, a sun gold tomato there, and another sedum over there, and then blue curly kale. So I really packed this bed in this year, but I did it purposefully to help it retain moisture because our raised beds dry out super quick. So I think it's doing an okay job holding on to the moisture. Alright, over here on this side, I direct seeded some Swiss chard, and I think I put a couple seeds every maybe like 4 or 5 inches, and the reason why I did it that way is just to have better odds of some actually coming up. We have a snapdragon that I fully cut down once it was all done blooming, and then we have a cucumber. I can't remember what kind of cucumber this is, but I'm so glad that it has rebounded. It was struggling there for a while. I'm determined to get cucumbers this year. Last year, I think we got 1 or 2. It was really a struggle, but I'm really glad to see that a couple of the seedlings in the yard are doing well, and then I might pick up a couple more seedlings in the weeks to come. In this bed, I cleaned this bed out a week or so ago and planted more gladiola, a 3rd succession of gladiola. I want to say we have like at least 100 in our yard, so I'm excited about that. I do plan on saving the corms at the end of the season or just leaving them in the ground, and they'll overwinter if I cover them properly and then don't overwater in the winter. We have our perennial walking onions here. They're starting to go to flower, which I'm really excited about. I might try to sell the flowers once they turn into, I think it's called bulbils or something like that. Bulbils, the little onion bulbs. I might try to sell them or keep them and plant them somewhere else. I'll probably just plant them somewhere else in our garden, to be honest. I don't want the onions to take up this whole bed because I do have the gladiola in there. And I do believe that's a squash plant there, a pink banana squash. I can't remember. I did a little freeform gardening not too long ago, so I have a lot of seeds in a lot of places and I don't know what they are. But I'm eager to find out what they are as the season progresses. Okay, this is a bed I'm super excited about right now. This is our Hugo culture bed. We buried a lot of unfinished compost under here. Kitchen scraps, just all kinds of sticks, compostable materials, grass clippings, weeds, dried out weeds, stuff like that. And this bed is flourishing. I'm also really excited to see the amount of ladybugs I've been seeing in my garden today. They're just absolutely all over the place, enjoying the environment that we've made for them. But these are the gladiolas. I planted these probably like 2.5 to 3 months ago. And some of them are starting to get bloom stalks. I'm really excited about this color mix that we got. We got it from Home Depot, I think. But this is gorgeous. There's some, it's like this pink, a purpley one, and then like a creamy white one. And they're doing great in here. I have some Shasta daisies that I divided out last year. I'll definitely have to divide these again at the end of this year. I thought maybe I would be able to let these stay in here for more than a year, but as you can see, they're really taking up space. So I'm gonna have to dig these up at the end of the year, along with some of the other Shasta daisies, but I'm okay with that. The more the merrier. Here on the back side, we have some scabiosa. I got these from a big box store. They need to be mulched up and watered a little bit better, but they're still acclimating to their new environment. We have carnations that these things take a long time from seed, like a long time, but I'm really, really glad that we got flowers this year. I wanted to just smell it. I wanted to stop and smell the flowers because from what I've heard on YouTube, when you grow carnation flowers like yourself from seed, they have a really nice spicy fragrance to them, almost like a clove or allspice. And I just smelled it and it's very, very pleasant. It smells like a nice winter beverage. I think these are really pretty. The camera isn't doing these justice, but they're a really beautiful fuchsia color. These are perennials, so they'll come back next year, and I think I'll get many more flowers next year. I think I might actually start more from seeds. I do have more seeds from these because the plants grow, their growth habit, you can actually plant these pretty tightly. So I think I am going to try to start more. It is a lesson in patience for sure, but I would like to fill this whole little corner with more carnations. I might end up putting them somewhere else. We'll see. But the hugelkultur bed is doing amazing. Let's take a look at this split raised bed, and then I'll take you guys over to what we like to call Tomato Alley. So this split raised bed is where we have daffodils. There's daffodils planted in here. The foliage just finished dying back, so I've been slowly removing the dead foliage and then also weeding, because this bed also got really overtaken with weeds. You can see I'm not done. There's still lots of weeds here. We have some blueberry plants, which, yeah, I was warned about growing blueberries here, but I'm not going to give up. I think removing the weeds will help. Watering by hand should help, and then mulching them again heavily. They were under shade cloth, but it keeps blowing away, as you can see. So I'm gonna put the shade cloth back. I'm gonna continue weeding and mulch once again, and then give them some more soil acidifier. It is almost June, so these actually, the plants where the berries actually survived and didn't dry up and die, those berries should be ripening here within the next month. So I want to try to keep them alive to actually taste a couple and see what they're like. What I'm going to do is probably end up planting zinnias here. I tried to direct seed some. This is all that remains, so I'm going to try again. Over here, more Shasta daisies. I'm definitely going to have Shasta daisies sprinkling throughout my whole garden. We have more lemon balm. Here's the blueberry plant. So this is what has been happening. Just the foliage is dry. You can see, you can hear the crunch of the leaves. Some of the berries. Oh, actually a lot of the berries. Let's see if it'll focus. It's not gonna focus. So a lot of the berries dried up on the plant, and I think that is twofold. Just the dryness of the soil, but also the dryness from the heat of the sun in the air. So definitely need to get it back under the shade cloth and then keep it watered. But you can see this plant here, some of these blueberries At this point, this little cluster here dried up, so these are dry. Let's see. But then there's a few here that still look promising. So I'm gonna try to take better care of this so we can get maybe a handful of blueberries from this plant. So we'll see. If not, I'm gonna definitely try again next year. Let's look at Tomato Alley. There's a sunflower there that we can harvest. And then this area, you know, came and went super quick. So I'll probably just plant another succession of sunflowers there after feeding the soil, putting a little bit of granular fertilizer down. Tomato Alley is looking a little wild, but we have a couple tomato plants here where you see the bamboo stakes. Most of these are Berry's Crazy Cherry. This area definitely needs to be weeded. And the plants need to be staked up a little bit better. And those will be on my docket to do for the upcoming week. Here on the other side, we have sugar snap peas that are on their last leg. I think they could have lasted a little bit longer had we kept them a little bit better watered. But these two garden beds are still like super new, so they definitely still have like a lot of weed seeds and rhizomes in them that we're constantly trying to battle. But I think within the next like year or two, it'll be much easier to keep subdued. So, but we're still getting some snap peas. And my youngest kids absolutely love these. These are one of their favorite things that they ask for from the garden. So I'm gonna grow a fall crop as well. Okay, here along the back side of where those sugar snap peas are, let's take a look. So before I actually grew peas in our own garden, I had never had fresh sugar snap peas off the vine, and I was never a fan of peas ever. And I think they're growing on me. I actually am finding myself craving the flavor of a fresh sugar snap pea. So there's the peas in the pod. When they're bigger like this, my kids like to open them and eat the peas out of the pod. You can eat the pods of sugar snap peas, and sometimes they do, but when the peas are extra plump, they like to pull them out, eat the peas, and then they'll eat the pod afterwards. So the flavor is really nice, I do have to say. I wouldn't say it's sweet, but I don't really know how to describe it except for it. I mean, it tastes like a pea, but it tastes like a very flavorful, fresh, crisp, almost like refreshing. Like sometimes how you would crave a potato chip, like the crunch and the savoriness of it. I would say I find myself feeling that way about these sugar snap peas every now and then. The tomatoes that we have along this back part of the pea trellis are sun gold, I believe. They might be sun gold or red cherry tomato, I can't remember. But they're starting to get some size to them, and they need to be trellised up these strings pretty soon. Well, this week, and then just watered really well. Here we have a raised bed, lots of weeds surrounding it that will go in our compost. These are lilies. I planted them last fall. I don't know much about lily sizing, and I'm not sure if these will produce a flower this year or not. Does anybody know, like, based upon what the leaves are looking like, if I'll actually get a flower from these this year? Either way, I'll be fine, but I would love to get flowers from them this year. But my larger size lilies that I've had in the ground for a couple years now have already gotten flower buds, and these don't. So I'm unsure. But either way, they're perennial, so they'll come back again next year, and I will be leaving them in the ground. I'm gonna have some volunteer sunflowers there. This was a volunteer chamomile plant that I'm so glad volunteered here. I harvested off of this maybe 2 or 3 times, so I didn't get a bunch of flowers, but I wanted to let it grow so it could go to seed, because the chamomile seeds that I started this year, they never made it to the garden. What I'm gonna do is just hope that some of these seeds that I'm sprinkling here from the plant come back next year, because I absolutely love having chamomile in the garden, and I would love to just have a chamomile meadow over here. It smells absolutely amazing. I'm not a huge fan of the taste of chamomile, but goodness, the scent, oh, it's so lovely. So we'll see if any of these seeds make their way back next year. We have a little bit of red here. Oh, not fully ripe. This strawberry plant needs to be fed. You can see it's showing a little bit of nitrogen deficiency. I have this planted under a tree. I'm not sure if maybe the tree roots are zapping it of nutrients, but I think strawberries are just heavy feeders, to be honest with you. And then I'm experimenting with having some lettuce planted at the base of this tree as well. So I'm gonna come through here at some point soon, weed this, and feed this either granular fertilizer or some fish emulsion. I'm not going to take you guys behind this shade cloth because I heard something behind here. Maybe a lizard, maybe a bird could be eating some of the currants, but I will tell you that our bush does have currants on them. They're not ripe yet, but we put it under shade cloth because some of the berries look like they were starting to dry out, so we put it under the shade cloth because of this retaining wall. But here is our pomegranate bush. This, I believe, is its 3rd year in the ground, and look, these are our first time having pomegranate blooms, so we should be getting fruit. There's lots of ants on it. You know, ants are pollinators, whether we like to admit it or not, they are. So we have 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 blooms on our 3-year-old pomegranate. Actually, it might be 4 years old, because when I got it, I believe it was already 1 year old. And then we have another pomegranate bush over there. It's not as far along as this one, I'll just say that. And then here we have some calendula that, man, I should have been harvesting this past week, but I didn't. So a lot of the blooms are going to seed, but this beauty has self-seeded so prolifically. I really think that this calendula has the potential to just take over this entire bed. We have garlic here, it's soft neck garlic. So I wouldn't be surprised if next year this entire bed is calendula, and I'm just gonna let it be, because starting calendula from seed has not been my forte. I've done it. Some of these plants were ones that I started from seed, but some of them were also volunteers, and they're just doing amazing. So I'm leaving it. I need to weed this area, which is, you know, a common pattern in my garden. But then there's also some yarrow back there, and seeing how much this calendula has taken over, I think now probably planting the yarrow there wasn't the best idea, but it's gonna be there for now, at least until the winter. We have volunteer Alamogordo sunset sunflowers, looking beautiful. I actually been trimming it this past week. I've been using some of the branching stems and flower arrangements. They actually make really gorgeous greenery. The deep green is so nice, very sturdy in a flower arrangement before the bud comes on. And then I think I might trim a few more this week, but then let it flower and go to seed, and then collect the seed, because I do sell the seeds. So here's our garlic. This will probably be ready to harvest in a month, maybe less. Some of the leaves are browning already. And then right across from it, we have finished daffodils, finished snapdragons, and then I've tried to sow some zucchini seeds directly here. I don't have much to say about that. Besides, I'll probably just have to try again. We have another full bed of garlic. I'm actually I'll actually be really excited when this is ready to harvest because I'm eager to put something else here. I'm not sure what it'll be, but I think what I'll do next year is actually, I don't know how I'll plant my garlic next year. I might put it in a community garden plot, to be honest, because it just sits here and takes up bed space, and sometimes I want to put something else. So that's the garlic. Here we have snapdragons, lilies, carrots, daffodil foliage. So things planted on top of things, planted on top of things. The snapdragons are ready to just be fully cut down. And then they should flush again in the fall. The daffodils are already done, so the foliage is in the process of dying back. The carrots are overwintered carrots, so they can come out this week too, actually. And then the lilies, this one is really showing off, probably because it has the most space of all of the other ones. So look how many blooms are on here. This one can be cut literally in probably the next 48 hours, probably in the next day, to be honest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Am I seeing 10 blooms? I believe so. Okay, and then we have more lilies here that are just putting on their buds. This is parsley right over here. It's looking beautiful and nice and green. And I have to tell you, this struggled in the garden for weeks and weeks and weeks. And at one point I thought about ripping it up, but here we are. I actually don't even use parsley in my cooking, but I think I should. I was growing this for flower arrangements, but it's not tall enough yet. It looks really pretty though. I think I might harvest some of it to take to the farmer's market this weekend. This is really pretty. Honestly, parsley looks really ornamental to me. Okay, guys, let me know, what do you use parsley on? Please. I want to try it because I'd like to actually utilize this plant. Although looking at it does bring me a lot of joy as well. Okay, behind the parsley, we have our shishito pepper plants. These are all ones that I started from seed. There's one over here. There's one over here in a cup that I got from a big box store. I got a few more than this, but I planted them in the front, and I'll show you guys that another time. But this one, I think I'm gonna plant it right there at the edge. And then this one is kind of, these Shasta daisies are really starting to overshadow it. So I did not account for how large these Shasta daisies are gonna get. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then there's a 9th one like tucked under there that's like really small because of the shadow that the Shasta daisy overcasts. So I think it'll be good to put that one here and just have 10 shishito pepper plants here. So yeah, I had to try to redeem my counting skills. Here's the Shasta daisy. It's covered in ladybugs. They really like this plant. Let's see. No, I don't know if that means that there's a lot of aphids on here, but I tell you, these Shasta daisies are gathering places for the ladybugs. Maybe it's just because of the dense foliage, but they love it. Look at this thing. It almost looks like a peony, kind of, in the fact that it looks like a bush. See, so many ladybugs. So if you live in Alamogordo and you're like, I have a problem with aphids, I should go buy ladybugs. Don't, because they can be invasive when you buy them from a big box store. Plant a Shasta daisy. You'll get ladybugs eventually. You have to have a good aphid population to get ladybugs because they need enough to eat. So if you only have a few aphids and you think about going to get a jar of ladybugs, they may not stick around if they don't have a good enough food source. So you can leave the aphids. It'll attract the ladybugs over time. But get a plant like this, or start a plant like this from seed. It can take like up to a year for them to get this big though, just so you're aware. Okay, over here we have carrot flowers from some carrots going to seed. I do believe that there's a berries crazy cherry plant there and a berries crazy cherry plant there. I direct sowed some lettuce. We have a few that actually came up. I ended up forgetting that I sowed lettuce here and then came through and was trying to pull weeds and moved a bunch of the seed. So you can see how the weeds like to creep into the bed, the Bermuda grass. But then there's lettuce that survived right in there. I need to come through again and pull more weeds. And then back over this way, this area is looking very dry. I added perlite to this soil because it was getting very compacted, but now it makes it so free draining that the top layer of the soil is just drying out so quick. So the perlite I think was fine, but now I need to come through, and the carrots are large enough where I can mulch them. I think it'll be okay because they really need help with retaining moisture. You guys can see, my husband ran the sprinkler last night and you guys can see that it's incredibly dry. So dry. But the carrot foliage is looking nice. They're another one I don't really stress myself about thinning because of the fact that they help hold moisture into the soil. I may thin them in the next 2 weeks. I may not. I don't know. We'll see. I probably will. But I need to get the soil to a point where it's actually maintaining the moisture. Because I may lose some carrots between now and then. So I don't want to thin and then lose even more. I want to wait until I can keep the moisture here in the soil. But I think that the carrot foliage looks beautiful. And my plans are to mulch or fertilize, mulch, and then probably thin within the next month. But they're still little ways from harvest, like a good little ways. So we have comfrey. It flowered this year for the first time. I want to gather some of that and dry it. We have some pro-cut sunflowers. There's pro-cut sunflowers there that are about to be done, and pro-cut sunflowers there that are done. I'm just kind of leaving them for now until I have something else to put here, which I'll have another succession of pro-cuts in a week maybe. This patch is empty because I'm going to try sowing more carrots. And then here, I was trying to direct sow zinnias, but not a whole lot came up, and you guys can see how dry the soil looks, and I think they were just having a hard time. But there's a couple that came up there, so I do need to pull the weeds, and then I'm going to try to fertilize the soil and see if that can help with some of the moisture retention. Oh, this looks pretty. This is some lettuce. This piece looks sad. Let me actually take this out of the bed. There were some other lettuce plants here in the corner that I pulled out. You guys can see. I'm not going to give you a close-up because there's really pulleys all over the rotting lettuce right there. I pulled some lettuce plants that were here. They were looking really sad because it's been super hot. Okay, not super hot. It's been like in the 80s. But they were struggling. So I went ahead and pulled the plants, threw them to the side. There's really pulleys enjoying them now. And I think that's helping keep them off of this lettuce. So this one looks really pretty now. It was having a hard time, but I think moving that other lettuce out of the way is keeping it from having to share resources. And then we have some random carrot. Well, they're not random. I planted them here. Then I thought, oh, they got washed away. They're not going to come up. So then I planted the lettuce, and the lettuce came up. But luckily, the carrots came up outside of the lettuce, and then the lettuce came up. And so the carrots are like on either side of the lettuce. I think it's cute. So lettuce, some oak leaf lettuce. I think I'm just going to end up harvesting these as a head of lettuce, to be honest. And then maybe do another succession and put some shade cloth here. Yeah, and then we have more carrots. These ended up, some of these look a little, some of these I planted really close. Like I said, I never thinned them, so they don't look like the most photogenic carrots. Those might be carrots that are reserved for my family. Here we have some snapdragons that are finished. These need to be cut back so that they'll bloom again for me. And we have one of my favorite parts of the garden, the flower path, bucket of weeds, because I was weeding along here. There was daffodils planted here in the spring. All of the foliage has died back, and I put it in that bucket. I direct seeded some cosmos here once the daffodils started dying back, and they came up kind of like in patches here and there. But I think now that the daffodil foliage has been moved out of the way and I've done some weeding, I'm gonna mulch up this area a little bit better. I think that'll help the cosmos take off a little bit more too. But I love these and I can't wait until they're super tall. I'm gonna come through and direct seed some more. I started some seeds in seed trays, but I'm also gonna try to direct seed some more cosmos because I wanna have a lot of them this year. They're so fun. We have some black hollyhocks that I planted, I believe over a year ago. This is the first year that they flowered. It might have been a year ago, but I waited a year for these flowers and I will be saving the seed. I got the seed from Baker Creek. These are so beautiful. We kind of trellised them this past week because this stalk actually fell down. I'm not sure if it's fully broken or not, but some more blooms opened, so I'm hoping that's a good sign. We just wrapped some twine around the 3 bloom stalks so they could kind of support each other. These snapdragons are ready to be cut down. Oh, my eucalyptus is putting on new foliage. It needs to be weeded, but the eucalyptus is putting on new foliage. I'm so excited. I've had this thing in the ground for about maybe 2 years now, and it's still so tiny. I'm thinking about moving it at the end of the season to somewhere where it can flourish a little bit better. There's a cement sidewalk here, so I don't know if that could possibly be hindering its growing, or if it's really just a slow grower. So, because it's been in the ground for over a year, and this is how long the stems are. So, there we have it. On this side, some daffodils that are dying back, some finished sunflowers, and then our Shasta daisies. We have dahlias here. There's one behind the Shasta daisy there. There. One there, and there. And here's our Shasta daisies. I'm gonna pinch out my dahlias pretty soon and try to propagate the cuttings. Look at the Shasta daisies, they look so beautiful. I've been using a couple of these in flower arrangements and they hold up pretty well. It's just, oh, there's a woodpecker. I thought I heard something. Okay, there's a woodpecker in the tree. But more ladybugs. The thing about white flowers though is that they can sustain damage, like bug damage, pretty quick. You can see that. So, and look at the ladybugs. They like to rest inside the flowers. Isn't that cute? So, yeah. But there's lots of insects on the Shasta daisies, so it's kind of sometimes a luck of the draw when we get to harvest one to actually use for flower arrangement, and when we just kind of have to let it go to the pollinators. But yeah, I have so many plants, I'm okay with letting them have some of them. So that is how things are looking here at the end of May. Thank you for continuing to follow along as I do these monthly garden tours, and I look forward to showing off the garden to you again at the end of June. And until next time, keep learning and keep growing.